Hey, what's up, guys? Sam here, kicking off the 9:30 for the last trading day of November 2024. All right, so new all-time high, at least hit on SPX. It hasn't hit on ES yet. If it were to breach to a new high on ES as well today, which would be kind of cool. That implies another roughly 12 points higher. So this would get you somewhere in the neighborhood of 60.40 on SPX. If this previous high were to get tagged, you can see the previous highs from that white line. So it's about 12 points away or so. There is an hourly squeeze. You do have thrust signals, so why not? Why not just go for the thing? So that's pretty much that. Honestly, I'll shoot straight with you. If I wasn't on the mic today, I wouldn't even be signing in. I would just let my positions trade through. I might look at them on my phone or something, but I would be going to have myself a day. Now, because I am on the mic and I have the absolute, let's call it pleasure of being on the mic, then I'd like to do this with you instead. Now, some of you may find this boring, and this might be a great opportunity for you to go have breakfast if that's the case. But I'm going to do my weekend work live with you guys just to show you what I do. It goes by pretty quick. And by the end of it, we'll have a good idea as to what we want to do going into next week. The reason I want to do it today is because I'm going to be moving and I won't have time to do it this weekend. So I figured we'd do it live and in person. So let's do that. In terms of positions that we have together, I looked at everything. I don't see anything to change. The one position that has maybe the most change today is URA. We've been in this trade. I'd like to see it hold this pump. I'd like to see it close above 33 ideally. The setup really didn't change. So you got hit with a bear bust there. Now you're getting hit with the bull bust there, but inside of that it's a max bull. You do have a 2-day squeeze as well. So I always like to kind of examine those to see how those are doing. And the 2-day squeeze is right over here. And there it is. And it's a max bull 50. So I don't really see anything to change there. One stock that's come up a couple of times today, both in John and Cody's sessions, was Oklo. So I'll put this one on your radar just because, it's a little bit of a fun time Charlie kind of chart. And, that looks like a flag pattern with a max bull score and a squeeze. So these two things are not dissimilar. URA contains Oklo. So just putting it on your radar if you're interested in anything like that. Aside from that, I don't see anything else to change on any of our open positions or even really discuss because not really anything has happened. So with that out of the way, let's dive in here and let's see how quickly we can do this. So just a heads up here on how I do this. I'm just looking for scores for these time frames, the daily, the 4-hour and the 1 hour. Usually I have the 30-minute here as well, but I decided that's just going to be, I would need an additional screen to do that. So I dumped it for today. So we're going to be looking at these three time frames, and then we're going to be noting if there's any squeezes on all of these different products. And then by the end of it, we'll have a good idea as to what to do for next week. Where to focus, where not to focus. So with that said, let me update my charts here. That's going to become the daily. This one's going to become the 4-hour. And we'll go from here. So SPY. So everything here should be straightforward. The only thing that I'll add here, just to clarify something, is on the daily score, I double it. So if it's a 50, I put 100. If it's 30, I put 60. If it's 10, I put 20. Everything else remains the same. The reason is I want to prioritize or give higher weighting to the daily score. So here we are on SPY, and we have a 34 on the daily, 68. We have a 50 on the 4-hour and a 50 on the hourly. All right. Do we have any squeezes? We do not. QQQ. The daily is a 20. It becomes a 40. Uh, 34 and 26. We have a 2-hour squeeze. Dowski. 100, 50, 50. So first one that gets a perfect score. No squeezes. IWM. Actually, you know what? Let's do this. Let's actually jump to the sectors first because I want to spend a little bit more time on the indexes. I do because it is the end of the month as well. I want to take a look at that as well. So I want to give it a little bit more time. Whereas with the sectors, I'm a little bit just more interested in the overall flows. So here we'll start here with XLB. It's a 16, that becomes a 32, then we get a 34, and we get a 12 with a 3-day squeeze. XLC is 100, 50, and 50. Impressive. No squeezes. XLE. What numbers am I looking at? I'm just looking at the total score. So I'm grabbing the score. You see the score right there? Because before, like, what did we have to do before, right? We had to interpret all of this. We had to, like, oh, what is the price action doing? What is the momentum indicators doing? Do I have stacked moving averages? I get a check. Oh, do I have this correct? I get a check. You know, is this correct? I get an X. 2 out of 3. You'd have to do it manually. Everything is up here. This seems really simple, but if you actually look at the code, it's like pretty deep in terms of how much calculation is going on there. And everything that we would look at here or here or here is directly interpreted for us there. And we could boil all of that down to a singular score right there, and right there. So that's what I'm looking at. I'm just going super fast because the process of getting the scores is the quick part. Then you have to figure out what the hell do you do with it. So 36, 36, negative 20 on energy. XLF is going to be perfect, I'm sure. So I'll go ahead and pre-fill it in. 100, 50, 50. What do you know? It is. KRE might be perfect as well. As we go along and you're watching me do this like a monkey, if you can think of a better way for me to do this so that I don't have to manually type it in, I would love to know. This actually is the fastest way that I've found, but again, I'm a little bit of a brute when it comes to this stuff. Kind of surprising. KRE gets a 1, a negative 1 on the hourly, but I guess it isn't a down cycle. XLI. $50, $50, $50. So 100, 50, 50, and it has a 1 hour squeeze. XLK. 40, 4, 21. The 3-day squeeze. $28, 40, 50, 3-day squeeze. XLU. Stronger than I would have thought. 84, 50, 50, 3-day squeeze. Wow. Okay. XLV. Negative 20, 7, 20. No squeezes. XLY. Well, my watch list. I don't think I can put this indicator on a watch list. Like, it looks simple, but it's actually pretty complex. So according to Eric, who coded it all, this doesn't neatly fit into a watch list. I can look for individual components of it, but I can't look for the total of it. So, like, for example, you would think that I'd be able to have a watch list and then just use this singular score to rank it. At least so far, I haven't found a way to do that. XLY, 100, 50, 50, 1 hour squeeze. Yeah, well, the difference with tailors and mines is that tailors is a little bit more suited for watch list building. So there's trade-offs to both, but due to the complexity of the way that I calculate the trend oscillator, it doesn't lend itself to easy watch list building. But it does provide a more comprehensive view of momentum. So trade-offs. Also, we're almost done. I'll start speeding up here. And you don't even need to do all this stuff. Like I'm doing everything just to be super comprehensive about it. But in reality, like, do I really care what like biotech is doing? Probably not. There's so many squeezes on the semis with a negative score. Surely that ends well. Surely. Whoa, 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 wow, arc. With a monthly squeeze on that bad boy. I'm going to pass on solar and emerging markets. I just don't care. All right, so let's move on to the stocks here. Oh, Apple. For any of you that held the 235 unbalanced butterflies, you're getting paid. You're getting hella paid, which is the best kind of paid. And mind you, you can tell how comprehensive I'm being. If you were to do something like this, you really don't have to be as comprehensive as this. And we're almost finished, and I've only been doing it for 15 minutes, and I've been chatting with you for at least 5 of those. So this is a little bit of a brutish way to do it. I do acknowledge that. And if there's a better way to do it, I'm happy to do it. But at the same time, this is our job. Since I'm going to be moving soon, I got my squirrels the largest container of peanut butter I've ever seen. And I'm just going to leave it up here for them as a parting gift for their many moments of entertainment that they brought me. Wow, Carvana just keeps going. That's a god level stock. 50, 18, 2 hour. JPM still has that same setup from last time that we spoke. I mean, if you're a fund manager, don't you want to show your clients that you're long uranium? Maybe I'm just speaking my book here, but imagine not being long uranium and having to show your clients that for the November statement. You will look like a fool. All right, so I might skip the bottom part, the commodities part. I don't think it's as relevant for our conversation. And then we'll go back and do the sectors or the index and spend a little bit more time there. The monthly squeeze on Tesla is a beast. It would be the most epic rug pull of all time if somehow that monthly squeeze on Tesla were to not fire long. I do wonder if TLT has found a bottom here. It's getting pretty close to flipping the polarity of this chart. I do wonder, and it is happening off of the back of this level on the interest rate, which I'll show you here once I fill this in. So TNX CGI. Yeah, So see how we got up to the 618 level here? Now, at the end of the day, it really hasn't done anything. Like all it did was find resistance kind of where you would expect it to find resistance at the 618. So far it's finding support kind of where you would expect it to find support, down in this area there. So anything that happens in between there is kind of just nothing. But if this can keep pressing lower, you got the squeeze firing short. If you can break here, and especially if you can break there, that sets up a rally in the bonds, which I would be all about that. As my old man trading days are upon us. Alrighty, I'm going to stop there. So now we have everything here quantified to some degree. Now there's one other thing I need to grab here. Surely URA cannot break 33. No one believes in you, URA. So let's look at this guy here. This is gonna be pretty. This is gonna be a pretty interesting chart going into next month. Is this Mag 7 index? And I've given you the updated copy of it as well. And this thing has a squeezes all the way out to the 3-day chart. So if we go over here and look at a 3-day chart of it, not a terrible looking little structure here, right? No, it's not super clean. This could be a lot better. And frankly, it says it has no trend right now. So it needs a little bit of separation here. The squeeze is kind of on the decline here as well. So I won't necessarily take these for granted. I think the scores are kind of exactly what I see, which is kind of a middling bull. Like visually, it looks bullish. Like it looks really bullish because you're, rising above the cloud and whatnot. But not necessarily taking those for granted quite just yet. But this is an input into the scores. So let's go here. We'll go to 40, 37, and a 2. And it has a 3-day plus a 4-hour. Alrighty. So there's that. And then let's fill in some of these here, the indexes. And the reason I wanted to come back to the indexes is because it's going to be the end of the month, and I kind of want to see where these candles are printing. I'm not overly interested in China, but I'll just go ahead and fill it in here since it is on the list. Remember when Goldman upgraded China, and then that was the exact moment it was the top? When's the last time somebody in here asked about China? Remember when everybody was asking about China? What's looking pretty good is this DAX here is actually looking pretty decent. Doesn't this look breakout ready? You guys love stocks that look like this. What do you think about it right there? What about this? Right? That's not too extended. That's pretty solid. So normally I would make a note here to myself. Let's just say watch. My actual note would be a lot more detailed, but we don't need to go that deep. A 3-day squeeze on the back of it. Let's take a look at that real quick. So this does bode well for our market, and DAX has a good correlation to the Dow. So this bodes well for like all the crap that's been moving, like financials and industrials and all that Dowish level stuff. Yeah, that's again, you don't have to trade this stuff, right? It's not like, oh, I'm gonna go trade Germany. Like I don't really care about it, but it's like is the world taking on risk, and does it look like they want to take more risk, is kind of the read on it. And I would say that combination of signals combined with that pattern looks like the world wants to take more risk. So of course that has to skew us in a bullish direction, even if we do not care about our friends across the pond. I definitely want to go to Europe and just be like the most boorish, obnoxious American possible, especially like in a country like France. Oh boy, would I get such a kick out of that. Being the most obnoxious American. Maybe I'll do that next year. All right. So this is also a very important chart. This is VT. This is the world index. So you could shortcut a lot of this stuff. Like, the reason I want to do this with you is just because I do want to encourage you to do something similar like this in whatever method you prefer. Like, even if you don't have my indicators, just do something similar to this. But you don't have to be as comprehensive, right? You don't need a monster list like this, right? It's just, this is my job. So that's why I choose to, no half measures. But frankly, like, you could get away with just SPY, Qs, DIA, IWM, and VT. VT kind of covers you for everything. It's kind of like the world index. And, if we look at this real quick, this factors in a lot of the world, or most of the world. And it also has a 3-day squeeze. So quite a formidable situation there. Let's put bull. This weekend would be a great time to do something like this too, because again, you're going to get a monthly candle close, and it's important to see where stuff is. This still has room to its monthly 3 ATR, so that could definitely keep going. Broad bull. And I'm just making some random kind of notes here for myself. What I would actually do is I have a different document where I like put down more important things, but these are good enough for now. IWM. And we're almost done there. So not bad, 30 minutes. That's pretty good. You just covered the whole effing world in 30 minutes. So then we just see what's up. So here's kind of the way I do it is I ask myself, what is the SPY? So I use SPY as kind of the center of the universe for everything, right? So for example, because the only way to know whether something's bullish or bearish, unless it has just a perfect score like DIA, is to basically compare it to the SPY, right? And so I'm looking for scores on anything that I want to trade that are at least 168 or higher, right? So if that is the case, then where can I trade? Well, I can trade in a couple different places here. $33 URA. Let's go. I can trade XLC. I can trade XLF. I can trade XLI. Which might be an interesting play going into next week with the DAX. I can trade XLU, which also might be interesting if the bonds have found a low. I can trade discretionary. I can trade real estate. I can trade metals. I can trade transports, and I can trade Cathie Wood. All right. In terms of stocks, the score was 168. So let's just cross off what we don't want to trade. 168, don't want to trade that. Definitely don't want to trade that. Don't want to trade that. 168, we could trade that. We don't want to trade that. Cost is a flip. It's about the same. It's close enough. I'll be willing to trade it. It's Carvana 168 on the dot, so we can trade that. Don't trade that. Trade. Don't trade that. That. That's good enough. That. it kind of hurts my soul to cross out Tesla. You could put it in the list, but just acknowledge what you're doing. It's more of a spec. Wouldn't trade that. Wouldn't trade that. So what can we trade here? We can trade Apple, Burke, Cost, Carvana, Home Depot, Jamie Dimon, Netflix, and Visa. Not bad. That's a pretty decent little list. And then we just look for signs of trouble, and I don't really see very many signs of trouble. The things that need to be improving is this one. So remember, we're looking for signs of strength, right? So just with this little list here, we can tell that we're getting some good improvement from HYG. That's a very critical component for risk taking. So that's +1 for risk, right? Just in our head, we're kind of weighing the probabilities, right? +1 for risk in a sense. What else? Well, like we talked about earlier, the fact that the DAX looks as clean as it looks, that's a +1 for risk. The fact that the VT looks as bullish as it looks with the 3-day squeeze, that's a +1 for risk, right? And of course, the RSP being perfect implies broad-based participation. So maybe less of a focus on the mags and more of a focus on everything else, which is kind of what we've been saying. So immediately we kind of orient ourselves with where to focus. So I think that's pretty cool. And we'll use this going into next week. And go from there. All right, so I'm going to use that video for the Friday video, by the way. So I'm going to double down on it because I don't really have anything else new for you. So we do have 25 minutes left. We have a very decent idea of where we need to focus at this point, and we can go from there. If you have any questions in terms of what we just did, let me know. If you have anything that you're looking at that you want to take a look at in terms of the charts or the setups, let me know. The biggest thing that I see continues to be the 4-hour charts on the futures as well as the mags. So ideally, the mags kind of get on their horse a little bit and at least just start providing some level of lift participation, as that would be the implication. The significance of 168 is it's using par, using SPY. So think of SPY as kind of your over-under, right? Because, for example, if I didn't use that, then I could say, well, I want to trade anything that's bullish. So like materials here would be a 78. And that's a positive 78, right? So you could theoretically say, well, that is a bullish number. Why not trade that? You could, but it's a 78 where the SPY is a 168. So if there's ever a situation in which I can trade something that's there's no situation in which I'm going to trade a sector that's worse than the SPY. If that's the case, then I might as well just trade the SPY, right? Now, maybe materials can play catch up next week, but I don't really like think about it in those terms, right? What I'm looking for is what is the score on SPY, and then I want to find things that are better. So XLC, XLF, XLI. XLI is kind of interesting because of the squeezes. XLU is interesting because of the 3-day squeeze and the fact that it's got a better score. XLY could continue to run. So again, that would put kind of Amazon and Tesla maybe a little bit higher up on the list. So that's the significance of it. All right. So that is that. I'll upload this to the room drive if you care to have it. But what I would say is consider doing something like this on your end, right? Whether you do it manually or whether you have a scoring system, just something. And again, it does not have to be as deep as what we just did, right? We went super deep with this. But, you know, at the very least, do the indexes and like 5 stocks you're considering to trade. And the whole process of it is really just to eliminate things, right?